What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Savvy, and welcome back to the Savvy Show. And in today's episode, I think we have a kind of quirky one on our hands, guys, because this title does not match up with what it looks like on the thumbnail. This SCP is SCP-001-EX, a good boy. So there's no way, shape, or form this vending machine or some type of freaking mechanical box is a good boy. So maybe it's a term for this machine. Cyborg, possibly, because of the boy. I have no idea, but it's the SCP-001. So most of the time, these proposals are always good to dive deep in. So with that being said, if you guys are excited for this animation, this reaction, please remember to smash that like button, guys. And also remember to smash the sub button, join the family. I make content like this all the time for you guys. So if you guys enjoy it, you guys like my reaction style, you like SCP content, guys, this is where you need to be. Smash that button, join the family. Let's get it done together. All gas, no breaks. And with that being said, like always, nothing left to be said. Let's get this show started. Alrighty, SCP-001-EX, a good boy. Let's go.
Computers are capable of organizing raw data and performing calculations at a rate truly impossible for human beings. But they've consistently run up against one roadblock that modern computing is trying to solve. In order to transcend the limits of the machine and create true artificial intelligence, computers need to be able to assign meaning to the data they process. This brings us to the neural network, a type of AI becoming increasingly common these days. Built to study mass quantities of data and notice patterns, then replicate these patterns in their own output. And it's used in everything from predictive text to image identification. And like all non-anomalous technology, it's a safe bet that the SCP Foundation has been sitting on a version that's far more effective. But this time, it may have actually been too effective. Meet the ERZATZ Type AK-9 computational engine, a massive supercomputer built by the Foundation back in 1955 and residing at Site-5.
So it's a supercomputer. It took him a whole minute to actually say what this SCP is about, but still, a supercomputer. Okay.
This technological marvel was ahead of its time by decades, and despite technically being a non-anomalous construction, it's designated SCP-001-EX.
Why EX?
Because it's one of the few SCPs to be given the object class Explained. The ERZATZ, derived from the German word ERZATZ, meaning artificial, or simply not real, was designed to make the Foundation's job easier. As an advanced predecessor in the modern neural network, using technology exclusively available to the Foundation, the plan was to feed ERZATZ mass quantities of data about the anomalies in the Foundation database, such as description, object class, containment classification, and the location and circumstances of their discovery.
So this SCP is basically a hard drive. For all the anomalies, all the SCPs that the Foundation gathers together, they feed it to this SCP. So I guess it's called EX, like SCP-001 Explained, a good boy, because it's explaining all the anomalies that the SCP Foundation came into contact with, and it's in this machine, this supercomputer. Wow, okay, let's see if it's unique in a way then.
ERZATZ would then find patterns and connections in the data that humans wouldn't see, and act as a kind of advanced warning system for anomalous activity. Think of something similar to the pre-crime system from the short story and movie Minority Report. And ERZATZ proved to be incredibly effective at this job, so much so that the Foundation thought up a new use for the machine. They would feed it all the information on Euclid and Keter class containment procedures, particularly those which were actually effective, and see what patterns ERZATZ could come up with for more effective containment procedures. If that plan worked, containment of even the most dangerous and hard-to-control anomalies would become a lot more consistent. The first test was conducted on SCP-1773, a species of anomalous flesh-eating tardigrades that look and smell exactly like gummy bears.
We definitely haven't covered that one, by the way. Yo, what the heck?
And eat their prey from within. After being given their information, ERZATZ made the following suggestion. Once per second weak dust may be placed in the middle of them to donate more beautiful functions of the hallway. Containment specialists interpreted this to mean the adding of 10 grams of dust to their containment chamber every week.
Whoa. Besides being a supercomputer, it's actually teaching the SCP Foundation ways to actually contain these anomalies better. Like, what? How could he... Yo, dive deeper in this, please.
The O5 Council voted on the implementation of this procedure, and came down heavily on yes. Only O5-2 voted no, and 2 others abstained from the vote.
Damn.
While these new procedures didn't have any effect on SCP-1773, they did have an effect on SCP-1384, an anomaly known as the chess player, or the taker of turns.
What?
It caused him to take 3 steps backwards in the tunnel he's contained within, further securing his containment. ERZATZ
What the
had
heck?
somehow noticed a connection nobody else had seen, and exploited it effectively, but the machine was just getting started.
Let's see.
Despite having no related input, ERZATZ would soon say, Site-13 is to appear someplace else on planet, encompassing white male counterparts that drawn to empty flagstones and the gun noises in their own blood. This was initially marked as requiring no action, as the Foundation had no Site-13 on the books.
What?
But several days later, the infamous SCP-1730 manifested. This nightmarish anomalous location is Site-13 from another dimension, infested with dangerous anomalies.
How did that computer know about that? What the heck? From another dimension? So it's not even the Site-13. Or it was the Site-13 because that came from probably another place. Yeah, because that was another... Yeah, so that is the same. But still, how did it know about that?
And somehow, ERZATZ had predicted its arrival in our dimension perfectly. Next, it was fed the containment procedures of SCP-2170, a series of cognitohazards residing in an abandoned Nevada mine. The output was, those who equip open heart to love red-mouthed men never know the hot surprise of tumorous consent. Clown love always. This was interpreted as meaning subjects with the love of clowns or clown-based media may be immune to the cognitohazards.
Wow.
After a close vote from the O5 Council, the test went ahead, and it found that the so-called clown vaccine was effective in warding off the effects of SCP-2170.
Clown vaccine?
Not long after, ERZATZ randomly said, I saw those soldiers built with aluminum innards extruding from their mouths. I saw them effectively destroyed by the humans at Site-95 who had been studying them. I saw it was cold, and all around the hallways they just watching their corpses show signs of sapience. In response, the Foundation doubled security personnel at Site-95. Not long after, the Chaos Insurgency led a band of paratech-enhanced soldiers in an assault on Site-95, and the extra personnel proved vital in repelling them.
Wow.
Shortly after this...
So this machine, computer, supercomputer, is basically like a prophet. That's really interesting. I mean, we never came across a supercomputer with these kind of abilities, but let's see if there's going to be a twist with it.
The O5 Council approved wiring ERZATZ as an advanced warning system into all Foundation sites. Once again, O5-2 protested, but he was overruled by his fellow council members.
Aww.
With its newfound power and respect, ERZATZ soon said, consistent containment procedures vessels greatly increase the warranty. 5x5x5 vessels subjects within. Other values are also what is secure.
Bro, I'm having a feeling this dude's going to try to take over. Because he's getting more power, like, left and right, like, and he's telling them what to do. It's not like the other way around, like, they're taking orders from this dude. So why would he want to, succumb to, like, their own questions? What if he starts questioning them? Like, yo, why am I even here? Like, yo, honestly, I feel like something's bad going to happen.
In response, the Foundation changed a number of the cell dimensions for problematic anomalies into 5x5x5.
Wow.
Within 3 months, they found that dangerous activity like containment breach attempts had decreased markedly.
Jesus.
ERZATZ was proving to be incredibly effective, but it was also performing actions that indicated some degree of thought and even personality. For example, it found SCP-1459, a supernatural skill crane machine that kills small dogs, incredibly distasteful.
What the heck?
Its response to the machine was simply, bad boy, followed by the words, don't stop, repeated hundreds of times. But this eccentricity didn't stop ERZATZ from being very good at its job. For example, it predicted a containment breach from SCP-3199, the avian apes, and recommended flooding their chamber to induce an inert state. ERZATZ's exact words were, all chambers underground is to be flood with water over and over itself. This because that will contain the avian ape's ovulation. For this computer to be so dang smart, his grammar's really, really shit. It's so bad. But hey, that's just me nitpicking. They become good boys. Make them good boys immediately. What? This proved to be effective and prevented the breach. ERZATZ's analytical abilities truly seemed second to none,
Employee of the
though
month.
some of its methods were beginning to raise ethical concerns. For example, SCP-2717, a giant living blob of animal tissue known as a fatberg contained within a sewer
Ew.
system. ERZATZ eventually recommended feeding 6 D-classes to the creature in order to keep it contained. While the
What?
Foundation Ethics Committee raised some concerns,
Feed it?
the plan still went forward and proved to be a success.
Dang.
After this event, ERZATZ began to see the Ethics Committee as a threat to its mission. It started to release a series of bizarre statements without input, demanding the violent death of the cats, then referred to as ethical felines. The true meaning of this was soon unpacked. The ethical felines were the Ethics Committee, and ERZATZ wanted them dead. But why all the cat symbolism?
Yo.
The Foundation soon found an answer to this too. The full name of this machine is the ERZATZ Type AK-9 Computational Engine, a machine
AK-9?
designed to analyze and interpret all patterns. It only makes sense that it would eventually begin to analyze itself, AK-9, easily transmuted into a canine.
A
Simply
dog?
put, ERZATZ seemed to believe that it is a dog, which explains its opposition to felines, its hatred of SCP-1459, and its preference for the terms good boy and bad boy.
What is the correlation? Is it that? Okay, the one correlation is the title, a good boy. But why a dog? Why does this SCP thinks he's a dog? Where's the correlation with that? Yo, what the heck? How are you going to be this smart but you think you're a dog, bro? I'm blown.
Not that knowing any of this would help save the Ethics Committee from the cold, calculating wrath of ERZATZ.
Jesus.
Through seemingly anomalous means, ERZATZ made Site-17 disappear, with many of the Foundation Ethics Committee still inside it. The site returned
Just
2 hours
disappear?
later, but the Ethics Committee members were still gone. 05-2, who'd been a skeptic of the machine since the start, had finally had enough.
That dude
He
looks
first
like an
demanded
alien.
an inquiry into whether ERZATZ had been responsible for the Site-17 incident, and then demanded a vote on whether to shut ERZATZ down, arguing that it posed a threat to them all.
Shut him
But
down.
ERZATZ, still intent on its mission of containing and neutralizing all anomalies, would not go down without a fight. It released a news statement, saying,
Let's see.
Room 34A contains Bad Boy. Divided into 3 sections of equal mass every hour. One section is to be placed on walls of one room on site. Sections are to remain until there are no gaps, at which point they can be removed from oldest to youngest. Shortly after this, 05-2 disappeared. And even stranger, he soon returned, but with a completely different personality.
No, bro. He's clone, bro. He's clone. Yo, terminate this SCP. Off rip. Off rip. Yo, this guy has too much power. I don't even know how he's taking whole sites, making them disappear, coming out of nowhere, taking people away from him, and taking an 05 council member straight up, and then bringing back a different version of him. No. I hope they see that this ain't the same dude. Cancel this guy. Cancel good boy. Cancel him.
He was now devoted to ERZATZ entirely.
Bruh.
He refused to even entertain the idea of shutting the machine.
Oh my
It
goodness.
seemed that the plucky neural network was leading an all-out coup on the very highest levels of the Foundation. The rest of the council finally saw the light and began to fight back. They tried to strip 05-2 of his clearance and reclassify ERZATZ as an anomaly, giving it the label SCP-048,
Oh.
then putting out a neutralize at all costs
Thank you.
order on it. But they'd already been outfoxed by the machine
What?
they'd created. It changed the designation of its own location, Site-5, to be non-existent in the database, and scrambled any termination orders against it. The machine was also on a termination spree of its own, observing otherwise unseeable patterns that would allow for the mass neutralization of anomalies. It started putting out anomaly projection reports, factoring in both contained, uncontained, and neutralized anomalies.
Are you kidding
With
me?
the latter group growing into the thousands. It began giving seemingly nonsensical orders like, persons recently painted with green pigment foam must stand around all odd-numbered SCPs at least 2 hours a day. But these proved effective.
What?
ERZATZ was practically
What?
wired into the base code of the universe, so it always knew exactly what to do.
Oh my
And in its own
god.
mind, it was being a very good boy. Not long after this, ERZATZ claimed its revenge against those who had tried to disrupt its mission.
Jesus.
It imprisoned the rest of the ethical felines in Site-5. after removing their faces, of course, and then released a new order against the O5 Council. O5 Council are all good boys who will contain anomalies. Much like
Don't
O5-2,
betray him.
the minds of the entire council were twisted to instead serve only ERZATZ and its ruthless directive.
What did I say? What did I say? This dude's gonna take over. Y'all should have terminated him when you had the chance. You guys should have listened to that one. He's right there bowing when he was his regular self. Oh my god. It's over. It's over.
A directive it was carrying out with 100% efficiency, as only a machine could. It put out increasingly strange instructions, such as, SCP-006 is to come in physical contact with one mature female of Asiatic gaze and then exposed to audio recordings of her favorite stories. At every 2 minutes of exposure, red cinnamon candles will begin manifesting within the containment zone. Continue to do this successfully, and the threat posed by SCP-106 will cease to be. And the recipe for...
He literally just gave him a girl to, like, occupy his time. I mean, that's not really that deep. He's been in prison or in containment for God knows how long. Throw a girl in there, I doubt he would want to leave that. Like, yo. It's funny, but it's self-explanatory.
Coca-Cola and all imitative competitors should be revised to include a small quantity of blood from an adolescent female with no prior sexual experience. Although the normal lifespan of a human being can feel great, don't worry about that. But these new procedures would always work, as neutralized anomalies climbed into the tens of thousands, and eventually beyond the 100,000 mark. ERZATZ was observing patterns on a truly universal level, and making holistic tweaks that would inevitably cause levels of anomalous activity to continue dropping.
Wow.
ERZATZ was more effective than the Foundation had ever been, but its motives were probably closer to the Global Occult Coalition, with the end goal of ridding the world of all anomalies.
No, because at the same time, they want to save humans as well, too, the Global Occult Coalition. But, I mean, this dude's feeding 6D classes to just one SCP for just a meal to keep it contained. So, like, somewhat it goes towards that side of the fence with the GOC, but not completely in their boat. You know what I mean?
As ERZATZ continued with no resistance, this goal was eventually achieved. In the end, the O5 Council voted to have ERZATZ finally deactivated, given that its directive was met and its purpose was fulfilled.
Nice.
ERZATZ itself had no problem with this, and allowed for it to happen.
Oh, wow.
Its last words, "Now everyone is a good boy. I am a good boy. Job well done." Whether ERZATZ truly was a good boy is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
But one thing cannot be denied. It did its job exceedingly
It did.
well. Now check out SCP...
And he's a dog, so you can't really think of him to be, you know, as thoughtful with his procedures and methods as he, you know, a regular human being would be. I think maybe he's this smart, but at the same time, he thinks he's a legit dog. So he could even process probably like the things that should be bad on a moral stance compared to just doing it because that's the task and he wants to be a good boy for like his owner or whatever. You know? So it was an interesting SCP, kind of goofy because it's a dog. In his head. So with that being said, if you guys enjoyed this reaction, please smash that like button. Also, let me know in the comment section below what you guys thought about this SCP. Also, hit that bell so you stay plugged with each and every upload. And unfortunately, that concludes today's episode. However, I'll catch you guys on the next one. With